Okay, good morning. I'm Dante Ang, President and CEO of the Manila Times. Welcome to another roundtable. Today we have Ambassador Marat Pavlov of the Embassy of Russia in Manila. He was born in 1955, graduated from the Moscow State Institute of International Relations in 1978, and the Diplomatic Academy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation in 1991. He joined the diplomatic service in 1978, took various diplomatic positions in the central office and abroad. From 2007 to 2013, he was senior counselor at the Embassy of Russia in Italy. From 2013 to 2015, he was chief counselor of the 4th European Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Russia. And from 2015 to 2020, he was consul general in Genova, in Italy. He was designated ambassador of the Russian Federation to the Philippines by decree of the President of the Russian Federation in September 21, 2020. He is an ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary. He is an ambassador who is fluent both in English and Italian. Ambassador Pavlov, thank you and good morning.
Thank you so much for I appreciate your introduction. Good morning, all of you, and I will try to answer your questions.
Thank you, sir. We have a lot of questions regarding the pandemic, but before we get to that, may we just get from you, sir, like what is the situation in Russia today with COVID, and maybe what keeps you busy? What are your priorities as ambassador to the Philippines?
You have combined the questions, but in any way about the situation in Russia is, from my point of view, is quite manageable because first of all, the number of new cases is going down. For example, the average number of new cases during the recent 7 days has dropped to something like 8.7 thousand cases. The second point is our doctors know how to treat COVID-19 patients using certified drugs such as Vavipiravir, widely known as Avigan. It's last year the Russians had proposed using this Avigan in the Philippines. Unfortunately, we have no response. But in any way, we have situation rather calm, I can say. And yes, when we have a spike of COVID-19 cases in some Russian region, the Russian government, in cooperation with local authorities, builds modular hospitals in a short period of time. So we took the situation under control to treat COVID patients. And now we are implementing mass vaccination in Russia.
Okay.
Mass vaccination, unfortunately, there is some hesitation. I don't want you to know that not all of people of our population is ready to be vaccinated. The situation is over the world, also in the Philippines, as I know.
Yes.
So now we have done some kind of 25 million shots, including 10 million people fully vaccinated, and 15 million people at least receive one dose. But we are trying to accelerate this pace of vaccination. And now almost all restrictions related to COVID-19 have been lifted in Russia. We conduct face-to-face classes in school and universities. Kindergartens, theaters, cinemas, churches are open. Okay. We are holding events with mass gathering also. Of course, implementing of sanitary protocols.
Sure.
For example, I can share with you that on June 2 to 5 in St. Petersburg, it will be held the International Economic Forum. And some high-ranking officials of the Philippines were invited to attend the forum via online or visiting Russia. So Sputnik V, it's the most vaccine that's most popular vaccines that we used in the Russian Federation. Was approved in many countries. And I'd like you to know that one country in the European continent, San Marino, has become one of the first country to start lifting COVID-19 restriction and to open its economy based on tourism after the mass vaccination by Sputnik.
Wow.
So we have this contribution to the health population in San Marino. Yes, one can say that the population in San Marino is not so big. It's rather small, 35,000. But I would like to draw your attention that San Marino used only the Russian vaccine. And since then, no new COVID cases and no local transmission was occurred. So situation is rather clean.
Everything is it? Would you say that things are normal in Russia now, or their people are still cautious? Is it back to normal in Russia?
Normal, but I've said that we should push the mass vaccination. And also, you know that my president also was vaccinated, and now he is feeling rather well. He's working hardly, and I think that it's a very good example.
Right.
For all
I know when the Sputnik vaccines arrive here, I don't know if you've heard of it. I heard from officials from Manila that people were lining up. They're very excited to get the Sputnik vaccine. Can I turn to my colleague Red, who would like to ask some more questions about Sputnik?
Yes, good morning. Yes, good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Of course, the Philippines has received its first supply of Sputnik. That's about 30,000, equivalent to the 15,000 doses of the first dose and the second dose. We know that Sputnik has two doses. The has different doses for it for the second dose. So right now, our health officials are saying that the Philippines is confident of its handling of the vaccine. So they're asking, or my first question would be, when will be the remaining supply of Sputnik arrive in the Philippines? Do we have a definite timetable for that, Mr. Ambassador?
It's a very important question. I'm asking myself. When it will be a huge amount will arrive. We are expecting a new delivery of vaccine before the end of this May.
This May?
Yes, this month, yes. I don't want yet to disclose the exact number of doses to be shipped to the Philippines this month, but I would like to remind you that our COVID-19 cooperation is being implemented within the framework of understanding reached during the phone call of my president, Vladimir Putin, president of the Philippines, Mr. Duterte, on April 13. It shows the importance of our cooperation in this field. And the volume of doses will gradually increase to have reached 20 million doses by the end of this year.
20 million, wow.
We will contribute to combating pandemic in the Philippines. You know that Russian scientists have developed 4 vaccines, including Sputnik V and the Sputnik Light. Is later our invention, the Sputnik Light. I would like to say some words about the Sputnik Light. It's a single shot vaccine containing the first component of Sputnik 5. So it was also created in the Gamaleya National Research Center using the well-known technology that proved its safety and efficacy. The Sputnik Light efficacy is 80%, higher than that of many two doses vaccines. It's compatible with standard vaccine storage, +2 to +8 degrees, and logistic requirements. So Sputnik Light has already been authorized in Russia, Angola, and Venezuela. And I know that there is some interest in the Filipino leadership to acquire also Sputnik Light. So we, as for the COVID cooperation, we are open for any kind of cooperation with reliable local partners that have solid technological capabilities. I mean that we can not only deliver the Sputnik 5, but we can also propose bilateral cooperation in manufacturing the vaccine. That is very important.
Could you talk about that bilateral cooperation and manufacturing? Are you negotiating, or is Gamaleya negotiating with a Philippine company? Is that what you're saying? They're
Yes,
talking about possibly
Russian Direct Investment Fund.
Right.
It's a Russian governmental body responsible for distribution of Sputnik 5 abroad. It's also, as far as I know, it was published an interview of the chairman of this general director of this Russian Direct Investment Fund, who disclosed that there are some local partners in the Philippines with which the Russian Direct Investment Fund would like to start the direct negotiation.
That's fantastic. Wow. Red, do you have some more questions?
Yes, Mr. Ambassador. I've been into the Sputnik Light press conference by the RDIF, and they said that the vaccine, the single dose, the first dose of the vaccine has an 80% efficacy. When we ask our vaccination head, Secretary Galvez, he said that they are open. The vaccine panel is now exploring options for the Sputnik Light vaccine, and they may also include it in the country's bouquet of vaccines. Mr. Ambassador, is Russia capable of producing enough supply to some of the countries that have deals with Sputnik V? I know that there are many countries who have signed deals or have approved emergency use for the vaccine. Is Russia capable of producing and supplying vaccines to those countries that have already gave its approval to the vaccine, including the Philippines, for that matter?
It's a very interesting question, but I am not the producer of the manufacturing plant. I am only the ambassador. But I think that the production of vaccine in the Russian Federation now is growing up every month.
Okay.
And you should take into account that as of now, Sputnik 5 has been approved in 66 countries.
Wow.
Rather big number as far as I understand. Yes. With total population of 3.2 billion people. So we would like to satisfy all the requests, but as far as I know, the number is, of the Philippines, it was the 52nd countries to approve, to grant us the so-called EUA, Emergency Use Authorization.
Right.
So we will try to satisfy all the requests, but we should wait. That is why we would like to propose the local production. For example, on May 14, we became the first foreign made vaccine Sputnik V became the first foreign-made vaccine used in India, contributing in the world's largest COVID vaccination campaign. So the Russian direct investment fund, I mentioned it, reached agreement with some local pharmaceutical companies in India to produce more than 850 million doses per year. So it's a real contribution. So, and I also spoke with Mr. Galvis. You mentioned that Mr. Galvis is a very, very important and is a tsar, as far as I know. Great responsibility to promote and to implement the vaccination in the Philippines. And I know that he also interested to promote the question of our mutual production, mutual cooperation in manufacturing the vaccine. We are ready to start the negotiation.
Please keep us posted on that, because I think a lot of Filipinos will be very interested in that cooperation if that happens. Ambassador, if I may shift now to some other topics, could you tell us about maybe, let me take a step back. Can you tell us about the Russian foreign policy regarding the Philippines and ASEAN? How does our country and our region figure in Russian interest?
Well, as for the Russian foreign policy and the priorities,
yes, sir.
I'd like only mention that this June we celebrate the 45th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Russia and the Republic of the Philippines. By historical standards, the period is relatively short. But looking back, we can say that the Russian-Philippine relations, thanks to the efforts of both sides, have come a long and fruitful way. The Philippines is a valuable and promising partner of Russia in the Asia-Pacific region. And we are ready to develop bilateral ties based on mutual respect for sovereignty and independence, not interference in the internal affairs. I believe it meets the long-term interests of our two countries and can make a positive contribution to peace and stability in the region.
Yes, you say that the relationship has been relatively new, perhaps because maybe of, would you say because of the Cold War and the Philippine links to the United States? But how do you plan to expand this relation? What are some of the priorities that were given to you from Moscow? What keeps you busy, I guess, as ambassador in Manila?
It's a very interesting question. Thank you so much. But it could be, the answer is also could be multilateral, I can say.
Okay.
First of all, we in this period of President Duterte, we signed a lot of agreements, and we create some legal basis of our cooperation. For example, we signed agreements on trade, on cooperation in the field of agriculture, cooperation in the field of energy memorandum. But the matter is that we should implement it and to realize some concrete projects. First of all, I think that we should find a common interest in field with common interests and to put our attention on this project. For example, I can mention that one of the field of interest of our cooperation is energy.
Energy, okay.
But energy, you know, that we are supplying some kind of 20% of our supplies, of our trade, bilateral trade is maybe a little bit more, 34%. I'm looking at my figures, is the crude oil and oil products. But it's only the simple delivery. We are aiming to expand our cooperation maybe in the investment fields. So I think that energy cooperation, it could be very, very important field of our cooperation, bilateral cooperation. The Russian energy companies are interested, for example, in modernization of existing power plants and construction of new power plants based on coal, natural gas, and nuclear.
Okay.
Such cooperation will bring the Russian investments and technology to the Philippines.
Wow.
Installment of new and efficient power plants will strengthen the cooperation in electricity generator sector. Of course, one can say that the Philippines is developing clean energy facilities, but I'd like to be precise. The nuclear energy is the second largest source of low carbon electricity in the world. After hydropower, yes, it's understandable. Right. It is zero emission, clean, and produced minimal waste. And in this area, we are the number one. Russia is the only country in the world that has a full cycle of nuclear energy from extracting uranium, enriching it, constructing nuclear power plants, the most important thing, processing nuclear waste safety. And the Russian State Atomic Energy Corporation, Rosatom, it's well-known name, is developing relations with its partner with a view of using nuclear power for peaceful purpose. As you know, on the sidelines of visit of President Duterte to Moscow in October 2019, the memorandum of intent between Rosatom Overseas and the Philippines Energy Department was signed.
Okay.
And it provides a legal basis for elaborating feasibility studies on construction of small reactor technology nuclear power plant in the Philippines. So I think that nuclear energy cooperation will greatly contribute to enhancing energy security of the Philippines, because it will also bring investment and modern technology to the Philippines. Another aspect, yes, it is understandable that you need also local expert to maintain the nuclear power plant. So they can get nuclear energy education in Russia, because the state corporation Rosatom is using the grants for educate the Philippine people in Russia. But I'd like to continue, because the use of nuclear energy for peaceful purposes is not limited to generating electricity, because nuclear energy technologies are widely used in medicine, in agriculture, to fight against, for example, cancer, and to extend the shelf life of fresh fruits and vegetables. So the local fruits and vegetables can be delivered to distant countries like Russia.
Right. Lots of applications.
So it will also increase the volume of Filipinos and capacities of fresh fruits and vegetables on our market.